Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to the Constitution series on Nirruption, where we make Constitution fun and not boring. So, our idea is to ensure all the jargons are broken down so that you will be able to understand what governs you in your own country, aka Nigeria. So, we hope you enjoy it and make sure to send to your friends and make sure your friends send to your friends, and it goes on in that circle. I am Toby Oraka, your host for today, and anchor with Miko is
Blessings Udoh.
that's Blessing in the building, guys. So, moving on as a way to introduce this Constitution series, we will start by pointing out that today's series will be part one. So anticipate 4 more parts after this part 1. But of course, if there will be subsequent parts, you would know for sure. So each part will be divided into episodes, right? So depending on how long or short the part is, we will be cutting the sessions into episodes to give you nothing but the very best and to, load you up with as much juicy information as possible in such a small time. Okay, so we hope, of course, that you learn as much as we do as we research in this constitutional series. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave it in the comment section rather, or get across to any Nirruptor via email or website or Instagram, aka for those of you that don't know what a Nirruptor is, I'm sorry, but a Nirruptor, it's a collective word we use here at Nirruption to address everyone at Nirruption. So Nirruptor, ER at the end, ER. Thank you guys. We hope that you enjoy this series. Over to you, Blessing.
Okay, thank you, Toby. I think this is like a great the constitution series is a great initiative because most of us are aware of a lot of things that going around us. We are aware of course, the music industry, who got married. Like me, I know that Njima got married yesterday, and there are certain things that are seen to us as basic knowledge. And yes, we had at a point in time in secondary school when we're learning about the constitution, maybe social studies, civic education. Those of us that did arts, we have government. And of course, if you then proceeded to say, I want to be a lawyer, constitutional law is there. But basically, I think it's not left for lawyers alone. The fact you should know about what is governing you, and that underlies the importance of the series. Everyone should know what governs them, because the constitution is apparently a constitution exists everywhere. So to start the series in total, we're going to be starting with what is the constitution basically, and it, as long as the word sounds, is actually a basic thing. Constitution is basically a legally binding set of rules which aims at directing the activities of people it was to be governed by. It's like fundamental principles or established precedents according to which a state or other organization is governed. So I would say that every institution, a constitution actually exists in every association of people. While we're in secondary school, those rules and regulations that we're to abide by, we're not to break. You could actually look at it in a formal sense as a constitution which guided the school. A company, for instance, has the Articles of Association. And the Articles of Association basically is the rules which guide the activities of the organization. And then as Nigerians or any association, any country, every country has a constitution. And this constitution are like set of rules which guide how those people are to relate with themselves, with the government, what the government owes the people in total and all. So the constitution is basically one of the most important, if not the most important documents, or important document or principle in any association, because it helps us prevent chaos. It just helps prevent chaos. Without any rule, there will be chaos. So yeah, and as I said, that there are different constitutions. Like, different countries have constitutions, and these constitutions differ. What we might be using in Nigeria is not what they are using, for instance, France or the US or the UK. So there are different types of constitutions. So I'll hand over to my partner, which I believe is more. He has a good way of explaining the types of constitutions, basically.
Okay, guys. So, uh, just to bridge our time in this podcast episode, we will be looking at two types of constitution briefly. So the first will be a written constitution. Those of us in the legal space will know what this is. Obviously, those of you in secondary school or even primary school should know what this is, I suppose. Written constitution and unwritten constitution. So moving forward, what is a written constitution? So like Blessing has made mention, each country adopts its own constitutional provisions one way or the other. So a written constitution, it's a document that has the laws of the entire country. Let me make it clear to you. Every single law, majorly, in the country is penned down into a single book, and that book serves as the grand norm, aka it serves as the Bible of the Federation, if you allow me to say. So that constitution per se gives power and might to every other document in the country. That's why it's called a written constitution, penned down in a single document, or as you would have in our lecture PDF here, it's codified down in a document. That is what a written constitution is briefly. So you can have a draft constitution. So what do I mean by a draft constitution? A draft constitution is referred to or known as when the fundamental rules of the land have been formulated or fashioned and must be adopted or approved by the voters or the people. Let me break this down. Once you have your constitution and you want it to be in a document, you have gone the extra mile of gathering the wordings you need to have a constitution. Yes. So now it will be a draft document. The reason why it will be a draft document is because you need some particular set of people to adopt that document as the constitution, right? So who are these set of people? The set of people will be either the voters, you and myself, the people, same you and myself, or the electorate, those in parliament, or as you will have it in Nigeria, those in the speakers of both house, the House of Reps or the Senate. So going further in this series, and perhaps you understand more how a constitution is drafted and given breath to. That is what a draft constitution is. Now, going forward to what an unwritten constitution is. So I've just gone ahead pronto to just give an example of the country that uses an unwritten constitution. But mind you, a written constitution is used in Nigeria. Of course, you have the current constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended in 1999. That single booklet is our grand norm in Nigeria. But for the unwritten constitution, we have the UK, for example. So an unwritten constitution is, like I would say now, let me say it's the opposite of a written constitution, right? So in this kind of system, you will not find a single booklet that contains all the law, right? So what you will have will be legislative enactments or court cases or treaties. So all these documents combined together serves as the constitution of that country. So those people are like, what is the point of having a single document when we have individual legislations, when we have treaties, when we have court cases? There is no point of enacting a single document to serve as a constitution when you have all these things. So perhaps that is their own school of thought and arguments. Just to reemphasize again, the written constitution codified in a single document, and the unwritten constitution, the laws of the federation is everywhere. They are from multiple sources, not just a single document. But for the written constitution, our written constitution gives life and breath to every other legislative enactment. So that is the difference between the written constitution and the unwritten constitution. Going further, we will also want you to understand the Nigerian constitution. So now these are the two types of constitution. And like I have said earlier, the Nigerian constitution uses an unwritten constitution. Am I right? Nope, that's wrong. The Nigerian constitution uses a written constitution. You know, for those of us that are paying attention, you will agree with me that I said earlier that the Nigerian constitution uses a written constitution, aka all the laws that serves as the ground norm are all in a single document known as the Constitution, Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. So the Nigerian Constitution is a federal one. What do I mean by that? I mean that it applies to the entire 36 states plus FCT, 37. Everybody salutes the Constitution. Nobody is above the Constitution. The Constitution serves as your daddy's. The Constitution is the head. It can never be the tail, neither can it be the middle, you know? So the Constitution is a federal one. Everybody pledges his allegiance to the Constitution as the ground norm. Now, the federal Constitution is one which provides for divisions of power between the constituents of the federal government. So as we go further into this series, you understand what this means. But what I want you to take from here first is that the Constitution is a federal constitution. It applies to the 36 states of Nigeria plus FCT. Now, the Nigerian Constitution is the head of all other legislation. You know, I have pointed it out here in my part that it will be explained better when we discuss the 1999 Constitution in depth. So the Nigerian Constitution is the head of other legislations that have made mention. In the 1999 Constitution, you would see parts where reference is given to some other legislative enactment like the Land Use Act, for example. You see, so the 1999 Constitution entrenches the Land Use Act, another legislative enactment. The 1999 Constitution also empowers the speakers, the House of Assembly, aka the House of Representatives and the Senate, to make laws on behalf of the Federation, you see. So the Constitution gives life, it gives the breath of life to other legislative enactments. You see, that's why you have the Land Use Act, you have, I'm sure you should know one of them, but let's just use the Land Use Act, for example. The Constitution empowers the enactment of other legislation. I'm sure you should know the EFCC Act too. You should also know the ICPC Act too, for those of us that want to fight corruption. Yes, these are some acts that gave life, or rather that was given life to by the Constitution of Nigeria. So the Nigerian Constitution is the federal one, is the head of all other legislation. Then two, or rather three, the Nigerian Constitution is supreme. Like I made mention earlier, it's the head and not the tail. The Nigerian Constitution is the head, it's the ground norm. It serves as the first and not the last, not even the middle. Everybody pledges allegiance to the Constitution. Constitutional supremacy, of course, relates to supremacy of authority to the Constitution over other laws, including international laws. In Nigeria, domestic law aka the Constitution, is superior to the UDHR, is superior to the UNESCO convention, or is superior to the African Charter, The Constitution is our supreme law so far as Nigeria is concerned. Then Section 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended says, you can read with me, this Constitution and its provisions shall have binding force on all authorities and persons throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In addition to this, Section 1(3) provides, if any other law is inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution shall prevail, and other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. Let me just break this down in some few seconds. The Constitution and its provisions shall have binding force. Digest it first. Okay. On all authorities and persons throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Okay. I'm sure with these breaks, you understand what this is. That the Constitution will have binding force on the 37 states plus the FCT, on all authorities, the president, the governor, the ministers, the doctors, the lawyers, everybody, you and myself, throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So Nigerian Constitution will only be applicable in Nigeria. It cannot be applicable in our neighboring states like Cameroon or Ghana or Niger. No, it will only be applicable in Nigeria. Then now, if we go forward to subsection 3, it says that if any other law, if the EFCC Act, if the ICPC Act is inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution, if the UDHR, if the African Charter is inconsistent with this Constitution, the Constitution shall prevail, and any other law shall, to the extent of this inconsistency, be void. Did you get that? It will be void, hook, line, and sinker. There is no argument. You're not arguing the Constitution. If the Constitution says yes and you say no, I'm sorry, but the yes have it. If the Constitution says no and you say yes, I'm sorry, but the no have it. That is what this part is talking about. So to take us further in the characteristics of the Nigerian Constitution, Blessing will do that, and I'll have some time off to take a sip of water.
Please do. Okay, so as my co-host Toby said, I'm going to be taking you on the characteristics of the Nigerian Constitution. And of course, we all understand what characteristics or features would be. When you see, it would be absurd to see an object which has a group of papers together and a cover and say that it is a tree. It's used to identify what that object is. Of course, that is a book. I just said a group of papers, something you can write on, and it already gives you an idea as to what I'm saying. So yes, while there are the characteristics of the Constitution in general, we know we are focusing on the Nigerian Constitution. So you need to be careful not to generalize this. But when you're talking about the Nigerian Constitution, there are certain things that are essential. So once you see this document, this is this. Oh, so this is here, this is here, this is here. So this is the Nigerian Constitution. So that's what we're going to be handling now. And I would like to say Toby has done a very good, has laid a good foundation in the types of constitution and basically given a good background as to what the Nigerian Constitution is all about. So on characteristics of the Nigerian Constitution, first of all, when we're studying the Constitution, you would, if you have a Constitution, at the preamble, we all know how important the preamble lays the foundation. It gives you an introduction, lays the foundation from whatever is in the content of the book. So now, in the preamble of the Nigerian Constitution, we actually see it highlights the first characteristics of the Nigerian Constitution, which is it is made by the people. Of course, this is not to say that there was a time that our forefathers, or let me say them, Awolowo or Azikiwe, when they were forming Nigeria, they sat down together and every other person, your grandfather was there when they were writing the Constitution. That is not to say that. But we all know as an aside, we should understand that in Nigeria, we practice what we call a representative democracy. And in a representative democracy, we believe that we, the people, have the power to put the people in power, the people who actually come together. It would be absurd and chaotic to say that everybody in Nigeria should come into a room. I'm not sure we can build a hall that big to sit down and say, this is what we want to govern us. So what we do is that we send a representative who speaks on our behalf. So that it's right to say that the legislature is made up of representatives of the people. That is why they have the right to make the law. And as I said, the first characteristics of the Nigerian constitution is that it is made by the people. To be exact, the preamble of the constitution states, "We, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity and harmony as one indivisible and indissoluble sovereign nation under God, dedicated to the promotion of inter-African solidarity, world peace, international cooperation and understanding, and to provide for a constitution for the purpose of promoting the good government and welfare of all persons in our country on the principles of freedom, equality, and justice, and for the purpose of consolidating the unity of our people, do hereby enact and give to ourselves the following constitution." So when you see the constitution, it is presumed by law that you enacted the constitution. You actually brought it by your representative government. So that is one of the first features of the constitution. It is actually made by the people, and in practical sense, through the people we send to represent us. Right? Now, I think my co-host has really talked about the supremacy of the constitution. I think once I see the sentence, now what comes to my mind is the head and not the tail. And that was one of the things that kept on ringing in my head. I think any law student or any lawyer who has, of course, gone through constitutional law would, one of the sections you happily quote in case they ask you when you go to a place, yeah, law student, yeah, cite one section. Section 1, subsection 3 talks about the supremacy of the constitution, and all other laws that are inconsistent shall be to the level of its inconsistency be void. All that, it comes in. So basically, as Toby had elaborately said, the constitution is supreme to all other laws. Of course, we have other laws that govern different aspects. We have tax laws. We have laws that are enacted to fight corruption. We have laws that govern health matters. We have different laws. Now, the constitution is supreme to the extent that where those laws are inconsistent, they derive their authority or they derive their power from the constitution. So when these laws are inconsistent with the constitution, it is automatically void. I can imagine myself being a lawyer and I'm going to court and I'm seeing that my opponent is arguing a law that is inconsistent with the constitution. I do not even need to argue. I do not even need to come and be doing too much story. I just go to the court and say, my lord, this law is inconsistent with this section of the constitution and such, it cannot apply. It is simple. It's the constitution and the constitution is supreme. So that is that on that. And now separation of powers. Now, when my co-host was talking about the different types of the constitution, the types of constitution practiced in Nigeria, we talked about the fact that we practice a federal constitution. And of course, what do we mean by federal constitution? Basically, it provides for the separation of powers. We have separation of powers between the levels of government and the arms of government. Now, I remember while I was in school, there was always a confusion, levels of government, arms of government, which is which. Now, levels of government has to do with the federal government, the state government, and the local government. So we have a hierarchy, federal, state, and local. Now, then we have for arms of government, we're talking about the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So when we're talking about let me start from the legislative. It gives you a better picture. It helps you understand it better. The legislatives are the ones that are empowered by the Constitution. The Constitution empowers them to handle the making of laws, the enactments of laws. Now, the Constitution then says that, okay, in order to prevent any form of anarchy, in the sense when you're empowering someone too much. When you give some people power, my government teacher would say power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you give one person all the powers, I have the right to make the law, I can execute the law, and I can punish people who offend, that person will be feeling, feeling too powerful. So what the Constitution does is that it divides this power amongst the arms of government. The legislature makes the law, the executive executes the law, it carries out these laws, and then the judiciary implements the law, in the sense that where we have, for instance, that's the court. The executive, of course, we know that is the president, governors, and the likes. The legislative, we have the House of Representatives and we have the Senate, that's the National Assembly in total. And then we have the judiciary, who are the ones that enforce the law. Where people break the law, we have them punishing. We have the courts, we have the police. That is the story I would like to discuss, but not now. We don't have the time. The police and the courts. Of course, lawyers also are, we consider ourselves part of the judiciary because we argue the law and the like to ensure that it is properly enforced. So, of course, separation of powers, this is just basic knowledge. Separation of powers was founded by, it was a concept created by John Locke and was further expanded by the French philosopher. I'm not French, but Montesquieu. I've never really known how to pronounce it, but you get the idea. Montesquieu, research, Google it or something. Good. So the notion of separation of power essentially indicates that a government has been established within a state, and the factions of the various government organs have been determined. Each organ thus focuses on the power which has been vested in it. Do you understand? So the next characteristics of the Constitution is the rule of law. And now, the rule of law basically is included in every constitution. The rule of law simply means that government should be run in a democratic and consistent manner. The rule of law basically helps to prevent arbitrary rule, in the sense that no governor can just come and say, this is what I want, this is what happens. This is what the law has laid down for the government to follow. And it means that no one is above the law. Nobody can come and say, as the governor, this is what I want to happen. No one is above the law, no matter who you are. So you then have to govern according to what the law states. And thus, it simply means that the law is supreme. And this is, of course, applied in courts, which is, as I said earlier, the judiciary. So in this episode, you've been able to talk about what the Constitution is, the types of Constitution, the Nigerian Constitution, and the characteristics of the Nigerian Constitution. And so I hope you've been attentive, you've learned a lot, and you've understand the basics or fundamentals of the Constitution. I will hand over to my co-host, Toby. Take over.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to my voice, if you allow me to say. So, thank you guys for listening to this first episode of part 1. When we return, we will be looking at the sources of a constitution and the sources of the Nigerian Constitution. I will take you on this journey before my co-host Blessing journeys you on, let me give you a snippet, what or why do nations need constitution and how a constitution is drafted, So see you guys, same time, same day. I'm just kidding. I'll see you whenever you're here. Don't forget to click the like button, tell a friend, don't forget. See you, Nirrupters. I guess you've officially become a Nirrupter because you're listening to...
At this point.
Yes, you are a Nirrupter. So see you, Nirrupters. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.